about this show is it does play up those late 90s, early 2000s sexuality tropes, and there's no escaping that. I'll defend the show anyway, but, this is how could we amplify this by 11 Spinal Tap reference?
Yeah. Oh no, it's definitely turned up to 11. For sure it's turned up to 11 here. And she then tells him that he should have had command of the Enterprise all along, but the admirals at Starfleet were conspiring behind his back. And then she says this thing how a tradition says that, when a captain assumes command from the old captain, all the captain's old stuff now goes to him. And I'm just still gross. And he's like, oh, I'm all for that, and she tries to stab him. At first he's like, we should keep this professional. But then after right before he leaves, he was like, be in a better mood when I get back. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you're still gross. And what happened to being professional?
Saying that he's going to keep it professional and then saying that, does that mean he's going to leave some money on the dresser or something? I don't understand. Is that what he's implying?
Didn't she try to knife him in the same scene, though? Professionality is out the window when you pull a knife out. I'm sorry.
He likes that.
Maybe he's into it. I'm not going to kink shame if everybody's, consenting adults. That's fine.
They've already been together before. She knows that he likes her to pretend like she's going to stab him.
Yeah, I knew someone like that. So.
Yeah, some people like the thrill of danger or actual hurting.
Well,
some people are a little bit too enthusiastic.
Yes, excuse me, there is that as well. So the Enterprise encounters a Tholian ship. Archer tells Reed to disable it, but don't blow it up. Don't kill the pilot. The pilot tries to blow his own ship up, so that's dedication to, a brand there. But they beam him out into their decon chamber, and they tell Dr. Phlox to alter the temperature to accommodate the Tholians. He raises the temperature in there to 480 degrees Kelvin. Now,
that scene was painful.
It was, yes. We're going to talk about this scene here in a second. Because I'm not very sciencey, I really don't know how hot 480 degrees Kelvin is. So for all of our American friends, 480 Kelvin is 404.33 degrees Fahrenheit. And for the rest of the world, that's 206.85 degrees Celsius. Gives you an idea of how hot it was in there.
Very hot.
Very, very hot.
Of course, we've had so many side notes, but I always have to have some sort of Star Wars side note in our Star Trek.
Sure.
I was catching up on the Star Wars podcast, Star Wars Minute, where they go minute by minute of each of the movies.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And they were talking about something that J.J. Abrams had done in the Kelvin universe or something, and then one of the hosts says, I'm not sure how that is in the Celsius universe.
That's funny. I like that.
And it was amazing. I laughed so hard.
That's a great science nerd joke. I like that joke. That's very funny.
I knew you all would appreciate it, so I had to,
yes.
tell you.
So since you brought up this scene, Scott, let's definitely talk about this scene here and the interesting graphics choice that they made for here. This is the first time actually we see a Tholian on screen. The Tholians were referenced in the original series. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but we only saw their ships. We never saw the Tholians. This is the first time.
I thought they were costume creatures in the original series.
I think you're thinking of the Corbomite maneuver.
Maybe. It's been a few years.
As I recall, and if anyone knows differently, you may correct us, but please do it gently because we are only people. I don't believe we see a Tholian in the Tholian Web episode. I think we just see the ships.
I love that I'm sitting here, I'm just giggling because I know both of you, and I know that Rebecca always knows this stuff, and sometimes she's wrong, and I know that Scott forgets a lot of things.
I mean, anybody can be wrong about anything, so I always
he's got an excuse.
Correction.
I was talking to a coworker the other day, and this guy is, I found the one guy in my corporate entity that I work for that also likes weird European horror movies and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it seems to be the same experience. We watch thousands and thousands of movies, and then all of a sudden you start, pieces just start falling. Is that the one with this? Oh, no, that's the other one. Mm-hmm. It's just you watch so much of this stuff over the years, and it's Man, I can't remember it all. I'm done.
The same thing happens to me. Like, I'll get on, like, a Deep Space Nine kick, and I'll watch, like, a bunch of Deep Space Nine episodes, and then, like, we'll do, like, this show where we're talking about something else, and I'll be like, wait, was that in Next Generation, or was that in the Deep Space Nine thing that I just watched? Like, I can't remember where I saw it, who said it, where I heard it, like, but I know I heard it somewhere in some Star Trek thing that I watched. So, yeah, it all starts to blend together, but I should rewatch the Tholian Web later on and refresh my memory.
I watched In a Mirror Darkly 1 and 2, and I'm like, I should watch Mirror Mirror and the Tholian Web, because, like, I love Enterprise season 3 and 4, but the thing I love about shows like this is that they go back into their history. So you see, like, the Defiant disappear, and this is something we haven't touched on yet, but the Defiant just disappears in the Tholian Web, and, you don't think about it, but someone, somewhere, in the writers room of Star Trek, remember that ship that disappeared in 1969?
Yes.
Let's use that as a plot point.
No, you're absolutely right. I think, one of the dangers of when you do a prequel, a movie or a TV show or whatever to an established thing, is you've got to connect the dots. You have to make it work when you're referencing back into your own canon. I think in this episode arc particularly, I think they did an exceptional job of connecting the dots between Enterprise and the original series, because they're referencing events that happened in the original series, and now it's like, oh my gosh, this is why the Defiant disappeared in Kirk's era. This is why the Enterprise was sent in to go find it. This is why all the stuff that happened in that episode happened was because of this thing. And I think that in this story arc particularly, they did a really great job of just making that a full circle story. And it doesn't always happen with prequels and stuff. It doesn't always work. But I feel like here, in this case, it really, really works with the original series. I like that they brought in the disappearance of the USS Defiant here. So the Tholians in the decon room, Phlox tells them that Tholians have both male and female characteristics. So basically, rather than it being a he or a she, it's an it.
I was a little annoyed by that.
It's a little annoying. It's not,
that's torturing people, so I guess whatever.
I mean, he is kind of like a Nazi, so do we really care what he thinks? No,
he's not going to say
at all.
They. He did say they at one point, but whatever.
That would have been better to say they and them rather than it. However, we'll do better. So, they are in the decon room. So the Tholians look like a cross between a large bug, a crawfish, and the crab people from South Park. And I'm not really sure how they came up with this. And they also have, like, pinchy lobster claws.
They were like praying mantis, but made out of molten lava.
Okay, that's another good one. Scott, what do you think they looked like since we're doing this now?
Oh, God. My immediate thought was it was like a more okay, so I'm thinking of the one that was in the chamber that was being tortured. And okay, it's been a few years since I played this, but for some reason my immediate thought was there was this race in the first Mass Effect game from like 2007, 2006.
So this era.
Yeah, so and you know what, I can't remember the race, but I remember they immediately jumped out, like, they're these bug-like creatures, and if you save them, they're supposed to help you. In the third Mass Effect game that wasn't even released yet, and I just remember I saved their queen, and then nothing happened, but the BioWare dropped the bomb on that one, or, like, oh, great, all your decisions are going to make a difference in the third game. No, they didn't. But yeah, that reminded me of that race, and I'm sorry if I'm not getting it right, because I did not look into Mass Effect before I did this podcast.
That's quite all right. I put you on the spot a little bit there. asking you what you thought they looked like, since Brooke and I had to.
Oh, I love it. You gave me you know what? You gave me a reason to ramble on about something weird, and it was great.
Yeah. So at first they're asking them questions. The Tholian refuses to cooperate, makes some Yo Mama reference to Archer, apparently. And so then they start torturing them by, like, lowering the temperature. And clearly the Tholians do not do well, because they start to, like, almost shatter. So finally they say, yes, we will cooperate. And they say that the ship that he's looking for is in the Vintax system. However, the Tholians apparently can communicate with each other by, like, vibrating their exoskeleton. So it's they're kind of sending out, like, a homing signal or, like, a distress signal. So they tell Phlox, like, basically find a way to, like, knock this Tholian out, put them to sleep, or sedative or something, so that they can't call for help. Phlox looks all too happy to start experimenting on yet another poor creature, so he's like, yeah, sure. So in the next scene, we're in engineering. Trip is yammering on about radiation and how he got the scar. It was very Joker, right? Want to know how I got these scars? Like, it was very like that.
Better watch out, or you'll end up like this.
Yeah. Watch out, kids, you look like me. Like, it was just a little, but he says that he's absorbed enough delta rays that his grandchildren will glow. And I just kind of laughed, thinking, I doubt you have any active sperm, buddy. If you've absorbed that much radiation, you're not having kids at all, ever.
And you might not live out this decade.
Yeah, he says he's going to die at the end of the week. Like, that's how much radiation he's absorbed.
I mean, maybe he'll adopt grown kids that have children already by the end of the week, and because he's got so much radiation, he'll pass it off to them.
Okay, I will accept that scenario as the only viable one. T'Pol says, well, you know, if you're so upset about, you know, radiation, why don't you just, like, ask the captain for a promotion? And Trip is like, well, maybe you could do me a favor and ask him for me. I did you a favor one time. And T'Pol's like, we decided we weren't going to talk about that because that wasn't really a favor. You enjoyed yourself way too much. And he wants to know when her next Pon Farr is. So that's and definitely that did happen in the regular Enterprise series too. Like, Trip and her had a relationship. So then sparks are flying, this relay overheats, overloads, and Trip tells Archer that the cloak is down. And Archer tells him, well, you've got 6 hours to repair it. And Reed, ever the Gestapo, is very suspicious about this overload. He's like, of all the relays, it was the cloaking device. Like, that's a little too convenient. So Archer goes to see Forrest and is basically like, I know there's a spy here planted by Admiral Black. Tell me who it is. And Forrest is like, I don't know. Like, why do you think I would know who it is? If Archer sends Mayweather to, like, search Forrest's quarters, and Forrest gets real ballsy here with Archer. He's like, this isn't like you. You have, like, zero ambition. That's why I trusted you, because you're like a pansy. Like, he's basically taunting him. And you see Archer kind of take the bait, because he goes into the cell with him, and he's, like, beating him up a little bit, and he's like, oh, if I'm such a, you know, non-ambitious guy, how come I'm out there and you're in here? And then, you know, he pulls a knife, which I think it's the same knife that Hoshi was trying to stab him with. He holds the knife to, you know, Forrest's neck, and he, like, you know, obviously threatening to hurt him. And Forrest says, you know, if you kill me, she'll never forgive you. And you can see that really kind of, you know, keeps Archer, holds him back a little bit. Like, he doesn't want to kind of be in that position with Hoshi. Like, he doesn't want to have her that angry at him. So in the next scene, we've got Reed telling Archer that basically this overload happened because somebody snuck in through this restricted junction and that the intruder alarms were disabled. And the only way that could happen would be if somebody's running a high-level diagnostic scan. And guess who was running